Hello everyone, welcome to this session after a brilliant conversation with Alison Britton. This is Empower Yourself, Mindset, Coaching and Leadership. So I'm glad to see it's a very popular one, and I'm sure our panel are too. For those that don't know me, my name is Yvonne, I'm the CEO of Women in Football, so it's great to be hosting this panel. I'm also a coach. I do some work with the Premier League in terms of their Academy Manager programme as well. So it's something that I'm very passionate about, mindset, coaching, mentoring, and the difference that can make to your career effectively. But your life more generally, actually, and I'm sure we'll hear about that shortly. Success begins with you. And I wonder, from your perspective, how many of you truly take the time to invest in yourself and consistently? Because I think we all have the best of intentions about investing in ourselves and I'm going to watch that podcast, I'm going to read this journal, I'm going to do these things for me. But then that really important urgent thing pops into your inbox or your desk and suddenly all that meeting's been put in your diary and you kind of go, oh, I'll do that next week, I'll do that next week. So I think sometimes we don't get round to that. But if you did consistently invest in yourself, imagine where you could be. It can actually be quite game-changing, and I'm sure the stories that our panellists will share will really illustrate that fact. And I know for myself, at a certain point in my career, that investment in me and how I got better at doing the things that I was doing really shifted the dial. So I'm really excited to hear from our experts who can shed light on different aspects and different strategies that you can use at different points in your career, really. And we'll have opportunity as well for questions from the floor. So feel free to be thinking about these. If there's anything burning that you want to be asking the panel, then do be thinking about that. So speaking of our panel, I am delighted to be joined by Chris Larsen. Chris is founder of Leap 76 Group and is also a leading performance and mindset coach. So it's great to have you with us here, Chris, and you can talk a little bit more about your journey shortly. And also Monica Shafaq, so CEO of Gordon Moody, non-executive director, Birmingham County FA, Manchester United Foundation, Players Foundation, and Vice Chair of the FA's National Asian Inclusion Advisory Group as well. So a whole range of different things. And I think in relation to the whole performance mindset and how you sort of project yourself in that way, a portfolio career really interesting, isn't it, in terms of how important that is and the different skills that you need. So Chris, I'm going to hand over to you first just to give the audience a bit of a flavour of how your experience in football, working with athletes and individuals, and how you kind of, what was the moment for you really when actually mindset, performance really kind of became your thing?
Yeah, so hello everyone. I haven't met everybody, but if we did speak to you earlier on, I'd probably ask what time's lunch. But anyway, like,
are you fed now?
I've been
you
fed,
good?
thank you.
All right.
Yeah. So my name's Chris Larsen. I'm the founder of Leap 76, like Yvonne said. Leap 76 is primarily an organisation for coaching, and when I founded that 8 years ago, I founded it on the back of the fact that growing up all through my life, I possibly needed somebody to help me get through things. You know, life happens. And when I was sort of thinking about, I want to do something different, one of the things that I wanted to be is, I wanted to be that person for somebody else. And I wanted to create an organization and a community of people that did that as well. So for those who don't know about Leap 76, Leap 76 does three things in the main. So we have coaches who look after business, which we won't talk about today. And then we have coaches that look after leadership. So we're fortunate enough to run like the #1 leadership course in the country. We have people who, you know, we do that through various different methods. So, you know, you're not sat in front of a PowerPoint. It's like, you know, we have escape rooms and we have ping pong. So a bit of a youth club, actually. When people turn up, they don't think they're going to learn anything. But yeah, and then the thing that I'm probably, you know, most well known for is doing mindset performance coaching for a lot of athletes. And I've worked with them now for sort of 6 or 7 years, male, female, academy, upcoming. My youngest client that I've got is 7, which is insane, and we just help them working on that sort of focus and concentration and resilience and stuff. So, yeah, you know, I've been doing that now for quite a long time, and it all started because I just felt like in my dark times, I needed a light, and I don't think there was enough lights. So for me, it was all about, you know, I wanted to be the change that I wanted to see in the world, and that's why I started that business.
Thanks, Chris. And Monica?
So very much like Chris, really. I mean, I started my non-executive roles at a time when I was already in a senior position at a mental health charity. So I used to be the CEO of a national mental health charity, and mental health in football, as you can all imagine, is a huge issue with the kind of the rhetoric that, you know, men have to man up and don't kind of talk about your emotions. And I kind of got talking to people within the football sector who spoke quite openly about the kind of the problems that they had within football generally around this issue. And it kind of got me thinking about, well, you know, for me the motivation was that can't be the right environment for anybody. You know, regardless of whether you're a footballer or anybody else, you cannot have an environment where you cannot speak about your own well-being or feel afraid that if you are not, you know, if you're in a dark place, that you're going to be treated differently or disadvantaged. So my motivation was slightly different in that, you know, I wanted to make change in the sector. I had the advantage, I guess, that I was already holding a senior position. But what I found really difficult was that because I wasn't in football, it was very much a case of, well, what do you know about football? But actually, football is a business, just like any other business. And we tend to see as when we talk about football, we tend to think about what's happening on the pitch. We don't necessarily think about the things that are going on behind the pitch, in back office and what have you. So for me, my motivation was very different. But similar to Chris, it is very much about ensuring that you have the right people around you to support you, open those doors, mentor you in terms of people who've perhaps worked in that field already and have got experience of how to deal with certain things. So for me, I could say the motivation to do what I'm doing in my NED roles was very different to where you're coming from.
Great, thank you. So you'll see a real range of different experiences, and hopefully that will resonate and be relevant for everybody in the room. Chris, you talked about your youngest client is 7. You've also worked with some of the biggest athletes in the world to improve their kind of performance. What's unique about the way that you do this? Because there are lots of coaches, there are lots of mentors in the world. What's unique about the way that you do this? And can you give an example that you're able to share about the impact that's had on one of your clients?
Yeah, so what I would say is, like, there is lots of people who do what I do, and, you know, I wouldn't say that I'm any better than any of the others. It's just that I think I dare to be a little bit different in some aspects. But I think what's unique is everything is about trust. So when you want to build a relationship with somebody enough to open up about things that you're struggling with in life, that has to be based on a trusting relationship. So one of the things that I do is, before I start to work with any of my clients, I get to know them as people. So before we do anything that would be considered work or a session, I get to know that client. I get to go and spend time with them. You know, we'll go and they often want to play golf. I can't really play golf. I find that hitting the ball and finding it. But, like, you know, we tend to do stuff like that, you know, and I really want to get to know about them and, like, their life. And I take a massive interest in their life. And I do this because I want to build a trusting relationship with them where they feel like it's a safe space to speak. With regards to telling how that has manifested itself with regards to some results is, in one way, it's really difficult for me because my podcast, not a plug, it's my podcast is called Secret Weapon Podcast. And the reason being is, you know, I never really wanted to be at the front of anyone else's success. I'm a firm believer, you know, that every single person has got a superpower, and you've got to be able to find that superpower. And I never wanted to take any glory for anyone sort of becoming great. So I don't really like to share too many stories because it's sort of between me and them. However, I will tell you some stories about where I've been, like, the proudest I've been. And it's definitely not from people winning world titles or, you know, scoring a hat trick or whatever that may be that's in their field. To me, some of my greatest moments has been where I've worked with these people and I've helped them understand the triggers, the habits and behaviors that are conducive to them feeling mentally better. And that might be spending time with their kids and spending time with their partner. And one of the things that I love to see is, irrespective of the success that they have in their field, I love it when they come back to me and say, do you know what? I might have just become a world champion, but, you know, I feel great when I say to them, what's your greatest achievement? And they say, oh, I'm a good mum, or I'm a good dad, or I'm a good friend, and, you know, I'm a great person. So actually seeing some of the performance of the people in their industry is great, but mental fitness mindset is way more than just what you do for an hour in a week or 2 hours in a week. It's the habits and behaviours that we exhibit all throughout the week which makes that up.
Yeah, and a great point actually, because I guess if you get the tools and you practice and you really work on this, the impact is not just in the day job, is it? It's in your entire life, and I think that's the sort of secret with it. Monica, coming to you, you've obviously talked about a number of the positions that you hold within football, and you've broken those glass ceilings to get into boardrooms, and I think that's really important. In our survey last year, just 27% of women that responded said they felt encouraged to kind of forge the path to the highest level within the sport. So if you're somebody in the audience that's kind of earlier in your career, or actually in that middle career, but wanting to get that first role, it can be quite daunting. What would you say to your younger self in terms of sort of instilling that belief to be able to navigate that path a bit smoother?
I think there's quite a few things. I think firstly, it kind of goes back to the why. Why are you doing this? Is it because it's something that you actually want, or is it because it's something that potentially society, family, friends expect of you? Because I think sometimes the younger people can be kind of led down a certain path. It's got to be, I think it's really important to find out what your why is and what your purpose is. Once I think you've established that, I think it's really also important to actually believe in yourself. It's quite easy to say that, but how many of us actually do believe in our abilities and believe that we're capable of doing something? We're all very unique. We've all got our own purpose. We all bring something very unique to the table, and finding what that is and believing that you matter in that regard, I think is really, really important. That sets the foundations. I think it's also really important that no matter what, you always do the right thing. Again, you can be presented with issues that you think, well, this might be the easier route, but actually always try and do the right thing, even when nobody knows that you are doing the right thing, because I genuinely believe that attracts the right thing to you as well. And surround yourself with people who are actually going to kind of fight your corner and cheer you on and support you, because you're going to need that. It's not going to be an easy ride, as Yvonne mentioned, and there's glass ceilings. There shouldn't be ceilings, but there are, unfortunately. And there will be times when there's a bit of a storm that you're going to have to weather. So it's really important that you have people around you who you can confide in, who can motivate you, who can overflow your cup with positivity rather than kind of the negative things that might be going on. But I think we often also think about, well, is this the right time? Is this the right path? Have I got the confidence? Never wait for the right path, because the right path won't appear. It's never there. Paths are made by walking. They're not made by waiting. So take that first step. No matter how daunting it might feel, just do it. And with regards to confidence, again, that first step builds that confidence, and every step you take, you will become more and more confident as you're doing it. So I guess it's just kind of just go out there and do it.
Yeah, absolutely great point. And I think the thing for me about kind of that progress from, for example, never being a trustee, excuse me, to becoming a trustee, it's the little things that you can do. So actually, do you understand what it means to be a trustee? Can you educate yourself in regards to the things that are in your control? But the ultimate thing for me is, whether you're a board member for the first time or you're stepping into a CEO role, day one, you're the rookie. And it's as simple as that. So give yourself permission to know that in that interim period, as you're kind of moving into an organisation in a different role, it's okay to ask the questions. What does that mean? How does that work? And actually, it's quite refreshing for any board to have those questions asked, because it makes them think, why do we do it like that? And could we do it in a different way? So the inexperience, perhaps sometimes in some of those boardroom situations, is of value to the organisation, even if you think it's something that you should really keep, closed and to yourself.
Sorry, Yvonne, just to go on to a point that Monica made there, is like, we often talk about confidence, and confidence is the real pandemic about why things sort of we don't get on in our life, and do the things that we want to do, because we never really regret the things that we didn't try. It's like, the thing is like, if you feel like you're passionate about something, you've got to be prepared to take the first step. And there's two things that I always say is, if you're going to be brave enough to take the first step, also be resilient enough to be able to fail big and fail frequently. So, I didn't get to where, and I'm sure none of us in this room have got to where we got to today because we did it all perfectly. Things go wrong. There are bumps in the road. There's more than bumps in the road around here. It took me 2 hours to get 12 miles this morning. But literally, it's not an easy path, is it? Life isn't an easy path. So what tends to happen is because life isn't an easy path, every single time we get to an obstacle, it sometimes diminishes our confidence. And I have this process, it's called deconstruct and reconstruct. So when I'm working with people, when we're chipping away at our confidence, we're constantly deconstructing ourselves. And sometimes other people telling us that we can't do things is also deconstructing us. We've got to find our ways to either A, be reconstructed by other people, but we've got to be able to find ways to reconstruct ourselves. And I think it starts with self-awareness. And I think it goes back to the point that I made at the very beginning. I think, just by a show of hands, one thing, who in this room, put your hands up if you believe that you have got a superpower that is unique to you, that, makes you great? Raise your hand. Yeah, there's the problem. So if you haven't got your hand in the air, then you don't believe in yourself and you don't believe in what value you bring. The first thing you've got to do is find that superpower. You've got to find out what that is because you've got it. Everyone's got it. You've got to find what your purpose is. You've got to find what your superpower is. And can you see that? Isn't that crazy that we're sat in front of these great people and there's so many great people in this room, and think about everyone's got a story. Think about some of the things that you guys will have overcome in your life, yet we didn't put our hand up. We get over death. We get over losing jobs. We get over breakups. We get over anything. And not everybody can put their hand up and say that they understand what they're great at, what their superpower is. So I think confidence is it's everything.
Yeah, it absolutely is. And for full transparency, I had to take myself off to the loo before I opened up today and have a little word with myself in the mirror, did the whole pose. I said to you, feeling a bit nervous. So, but still we get on that stage and we do our thing and we kind of settle into it, knowing that. And that's why this conference for me is so amazing, because you can practice things here that maybe you wouldn't do somewhere else, because it really is a warm, safe space to do so. So if you've never walked into a room before and introduced yourself to somebody you've never known, just try it. Just try it today, because practice really does make all the difference. Chris, earlier you used the term mental fitness. Now, rightly, we see mental health very high on the agendas in organisations and in society. It's really, really important and being given that focus. But you use the term mental fitness. So I'm just curious, what do you mean by that?
Well, I've got this beef, right? Because I work with a lot of people, and a lot of people that I work with that are in schools, and it all started when I started to work with some of the schools, and they would say to me, I've got these kids, they don't return to school, they're non-attenders. I'm like, okay, can you help us get them back in? What's up? Well, I think they've got mental health issues. Right, where are they? They're these here. What, them 10-year-olds? They've got mental health issues. Like, what? So I couldn't comprehend why we were running away with this thing about mental health. And when I really thought about it, I'm not saying mental health doesn't exist, but if we change the language and we change that to mental fitness, that can become something that we can work on proactively. We don't have to wait for a crisis. There is a whole spectrum of health in mental health, and there's a whole spectrum in mental fitness. So just again, by show of hands, how many of you have been to the gym in the last week? It's a lot of people, right? Notice how I didn't have my hand up. I'm sort of on a bit of a break.
That's next week's job, isn't it? You were telling me before. You won't recognise me in 8 weeks, Yvonne.
I need a mindset coach. But how many of you have worked on your mindset in the last week? Less people, right? So what happens there? So why can't we find a way? Probably two reasons why we haven't worked on our mental fitness. One is, well, what's that? How'd you do that? And two is, where'd you go to do that? Do I need to go somewhere? Can I do it on my own? Is it breath work? Is it manifestation? Is it reading? What is it? So I believe that mental fitness is a language that we should be using to try and encourage people to take responsibility, because it's about empowerment. It's about feeling empowered. And no matter where you are in your life right now, that will be for one of two reasons. It will be consequence or it will be choice. If it's consequence, we're like victims. We believe it's everyone else's reason, it's everyone else's fault why I'm where I am now. So if I'm overweight, I could sit there and say, that's because I work long hours. That's because my daughter, I have to drag her around the range on a Saturday instead of, going to the gym. It's all of these reasons. I work too hard. It's my working hours. And it all becomes consequence. I like to empower myself. So what I do is I put everything in choice. And that's what I think is really important when we come to mental fitness. It's taking ownership of your own feeling, your own emotions. And once you know that you can and you know how, it's unbelievable. It's unbelievable. And it really is like a light bulb moment. And people have they almost feel like reset. It's like, oh, wow, I didn't realize I can take control of that. So mental fitness for me is just something about being really proactive and, working with people on how do you get better, just like you get physically fit. You don't wait to get told that you've got diabetes or you're having heart failure before you go to the gym. All of you in the last week went to the gym because you wanted to go to the gym, and you went to the gym possibly because you wanted to be physically fitter, possibly because you wanted to feel better or look better, and you know that when you look better, you feel better. So you went there for some of them reasons. So I think we should start to talk about mental fitness in the same way to create all of this proactive approach to people, including kids in schools, about how do you even work on that? And I think there's solutions out there, and I think that that's why I like to change the language. So it's not that I've eliminated it, and by all means, please, I'm not saying mental health doesn't exist. It really does. But there's a line in mental fitness. Once you go beyond that line, you need intervention, a different type of intervention, and there's lots of that. But sometimes we don't want to feel like we just might be feeling a little bit down. Doesn't mean that we've got mental health. Maybe it's something to do with the habits and the behaviors that we're exhibiting at that moment in time. Maybe if we just change that pattern, we will feel better.
I agree in the main in terms of the terminology that we use around mental health. So from my background, I know that if you say mental health, 9 out of 10 times the barriers go up and people don't really want to talk about it. But if you change the language, I wouldn't actually use mental fitness, I'd use emotional well-being. Mm-hmm. People start to connect with that. It makes more sense. It kind of, oh yeah, actually, I'm not feeling that good today, and it might be because my emotional well-being isn't as good. When you think about it, we all have physical health in the same way as we all have mental health. Our mental health or our emotional well-being is good some days, not so good other days, same as our physical health. So I do think there's something around the language, and absolutely it's something that we should be talking about from a very young age. And we've always advocated, it should be part of the curriculum. But I'm not entirely sure that I'd call it mental fitness.
Either or. I mean, for me, it's like whatever it's called is sort of different to, it might be a matter of opinion, but for me, it's about empowerment and ownership and being able to take responsibility and not feeling like you always need an intervention and being able to do something about it yourself. And, there's a huge burden at the moment on the NHS for mental health, because people are waiting to see professionals. How many of them people need to see a professional, or how many of them people could actually resolve some of their issues themselves? So the language of whatever it's called, if we want to, I'd buy into that as well,
It's that self-care, isn't it?
Literally
what
that,
helps, what makes you feel better as an individual, and what I feel makes, my kind of way to unwind might be going around, walking around a park with a friend, or a chat with a friend, meeting her for a coffee. For somebody else, it might be running. It might be something completely different. It's finding out what it is that makes you feel emotionally better, and ensuring that you do that consistently so that you do maintain a good level of
and
mental fitness, emotional well-being, whatever you want to call it.
Yeah, exactly,
It'll be different, won't it, on different days. One day you might want to hammer it in the gym, and the next day you might just need to read a book, like you say, in the park or whatever. No, absolutely. I think the key, or what I'm sensing from what you're saying there, both of you, is around proactivity and being mindful of. It's something that you need to work on and recognise within yourself that actually it'll vary. It's a bit like Sir Alex Ferguson's great quote around success doesn't happen in straight lines, and it's the same with sort of life and your physical and mental well-being, isn't it? Monica, you've worked with a lot of people in that mental health space and to support them to kind of turn their lives around. From working with people that you have, what have you learnt from them? Because I think where we talk about coaching and mindset and mentoring, the coach or the mentor learns so much from the individuals that you work with as well. What would be the things that stand out for you?
So I work with a lot of people who reach out to our services when they're in a very dark place in their lives, often at crisis point. And it never ceases to amaze me that once they've taken that first step and plucked up the courage to say, I need some help, I need some support, this is what's going on in my life, that actually they're the ones that do all the hard work. We're just kind of the facilitators. So I work for organisations where we say, we save people's lives. And yes, we do save people's lives, but actually we facilitate individuals to save their own lives. We don't save their life for them. And it goes back to a lot of things that you were saying, that we've got it in, all of us have got it within ourselves to achieve whatever it is we want to achieve, or overcome whatever it is that we might need to overcome. Sometimes you just need that little bit of guidance, that little bit of support, that little bit of hand holding to help you find the way. So for me, when I first got into that field, I was astounded that actually I didn't do anything. My team didn't do anything. That individual themselves did it themselves. So
yeah.
It's about the fact that, you know, people have it within them.
Yeah. And just sort of building on that point then, we've talked about proactivity, we've talked about what it might look like. What are the practical steps that people can take out of this room today? Because I'm all for action, so it's great to sort of listen to this, but what can individuals do to really work on their mindset and improve whatever it is that you know you're looking to do? Chris, if I come to you first.
Yeah, so there's two things that I think are like life hacks in this space. As human beings, you know, we feel good when we service other people, you know, and I get people to do two things. So if you think about, we get fed in two ways. So we feed our internal and we feed our external. When we're feeding our external, it's like the thing that we did that day, we did because it had some sort of remuneration attached to it. It had some sort of benefit for me. So I went to work that day because I wanted to earn money. I wanted to be able to buy nice houses, nice cars, nice watches, live nice. And that was everything feeding my external. If you think about feeding your internal, like what's good for your soul, what did you do to service somebody else? What did you do to help somebody else? And I get people to do this quite often because it's crazy. Like, you will feel unbelievably great when you've helped somebody. You just do. And if you track that, you know, week by week, every single activity that you do, was that feeding your I or feeding your E? You know, you'll get to see that, like, sometimes we're a little bit deficient in, like, supporting other people, but that sort of really, it makes us feel great. The other thing I'd speak about is, like, life is like juggling balls, right? So if you think about it, you could list sort of the 5, 6, 7, 8, you know, 3 things that are really important in your life. But a little bit like juggling, you can't juggle all of them all of the time without failure. So what we tend to do is we let some of the balls drop, don't we? And then when them balls drop, sometimes we forget to pick them back up. And primarily, most people who are really successful, who could hazard a guess at what one they think they drop the most? Who can have a guess? The individuals, the successful individuals, what ball do you think, something that's really important to them, what ball do you think that they forget about normally?
Self-care.
Self-care, themselves, their health. So that's why they suffer from burnout, they need help themselves because they've spent all of their time helping everybody else, they didn't help themselves. So what I get them to do is think about what them juggling balls are and track which balls are they dropping on any given day. And then what it does is it just prompts you to pick the ball back up. So sometimes with me, it's like my kids, it's my family. You know, my mum's got 2 forms of cancer. Time is precious. My mum is my superhero, but my time is precious with my mum. So sometimes I'm really busy, you know, I'm in London, I'm at Wembley, you know, and I'm not at home, I'm from Chester, you know, I'm out the way. So I didn't spend any time. So if that just, I might drop that ball for 6 days in a week. You know, I need something that tells me I need to pick that ball back up. And sometimes visually being able to see it helps us understand, like, they're the things that I said were important to me, not someone else. So I've dropped that ball for like 3 weeks. I need to pick that one back up. And it's just visibility.
Yeah, some great examples there and things that we can all do. Monica, from your point of view, in terms of that sort of taking control of your career and really sort of driving it forward, what are the practical steps you think people can take in that regard?
I mean, I'd agree exactly with what Chris has said. I think self-care, gives you that energy to be able to do those things. But I think practically, it's really important that, if we've got a meeting, we'll put it in the diary and we'll make sure that we fulfill that meeting and whatever it is that we've got to do. Put self-care in your diary. Make that a priority as well. So schedule it for Friday morning or whatever it might be, so that you know that every week you have got something in your diary that is about you. Because unless you do that, you will start feeling the burnout. You will get to that stage where things will become unmanageable, and you will end up being the one that needs the help. You can't pour from an empty cup, so you've got to keep filling your own cup to make sure that you can carry on doing all the other things that you can do. So for me, practically, it is put it in your diary, schedule it, treat it like your work.
Yeah, absolutely. So, I have got other questions, but I'm also conscious that we've got a room full of people probably brewing to ask some questions. So who wants to be brave enough and kick us off with a question for anyone on the panel? Oh, there we go. Great. Lowry.
So my question is, so after spending 15 years working within organisation, sorry, thanks, probably loud enough. Hi. So after spending 15 years working within different organisations, I'm 9 weeks now self-employed or kind of working for myself in sports consultancy. And whereas I used to feel the support of working in an organisation, any big decisions you had to make, you almost felt that security of, it's almost like a comfort blanket or a safety net that, if I fail or if I make this one decision, this person is here to advise me or support me if I've got the decision wrong. Now, every single decision based on, what clients I work with or kind of how you manage your time, all of these kind of things, it's just on you, and I find it quite difficult making those decisions, and it's almost having an effect on wider decision making, like even going to the grocery store and being like, do I want broccoli or do I want cabbage with tonight's dinner? Like decision making, it's going over and over and over again. And I wonder if you guys had any advice around kind of decision making processes when you're making these decisions by yourself now.
I think for me, it goes back to what I was saying about having a trusted network around you. So you might not have the work environment in the same ways that you did before, but there may be friends and family who you trust, who you can kind of sound off and say, this is a situation that's going on, I'm thinking doing X, Y, and Z, and kind of talk it through with them. That's often helped me. Believe it or not, even when you're a CEO, you do wonder whether you're making the right decisions, and you need some support sometimes. And you can't always confide in your team because it might affect the team, it might have something to do with the team. So there's a certain boundary that you have to have in place when you're in that kind of position. So for me, it's about talking to my friends, trusted family members, and getting a wide range of views from them in terms of what they might think is the best way forwards as well.
Yeah, from me, what I would say is it goes back to the confidence piece as well, and trusting yourself, because you started that business yourself because you believed in yourself and you believed you could do it. So now you've got to believe in your own decision making. And sometimes what's worse than making the wrong decision is making no decision. So do you know what? Just choose broccoli and just get on with it. That's what
I was team broccoli as well.
To be honest, I wasn't, but I judged the room and I thought, you know what? But you've got to trust yourself, and you've got to back yourself as well. So go back to the thing that I said earlier on, is you have to understand that the pathway isn't easy. You are going to get things wrong. You are going to fail. In my organisation, we don't measure profit and loss. We call it purpose and learning. Is the thing that we did this week, was it conducive to our purpose, which is helping people, achieve whatever they want to achieve? Learning for me is we don't lose, we learn. So my entire organisation get into the habit of saying, okay, we didn't achieve this week. Okay, that's great. What did we learn? So when you get it wrong, if you do, because you inevitably will get it wrong, when you get it wrong, sometimes spend a little bit of time doing like lessons learned, like what would I do different? Where do I think sometimes you'll probably find that delaying the decision caused you the problem, because actually, things have, gotten worse or whatever. So the main thing for me though is the energy that you had when you decided, I'm going to do it. I'm going to go by myself. I can do this. I believe in it. And, standing in front of the mirror like Yvonne and, all of that, you got to carry that same energy, because now you're it. So now you're it. So now you got to live it. Now you got to back yourself and have that same energy. So It's everything. Honestly, we've spoke so much about it, and between myself, Monica, everything is confidence. Everything. Because that's confidence, isn't it? I just haven't got confidence to make a decision in case I make the wrong one because I haven't got anyone to fail with. So what? Fail yourself and learn yourself because, at the end, when you're looking back on your journey, you're going to be able to say, I did that. And that's a good feeling as well.
I think that's a great point. And the other thing that I would add to that is kind of whether you're employed or you're running your own business, like that whole notion of build the team around you and build the team that you need, not the team that you want. So if everybody around me is like me and is quite woolly and lovely and wants to give you a hug, that's great. But sometimes I need a bit of a telling off, to be honest. So you've got to choose your team wisely. And the biggest thing for me in the various roles I've had as CEO in different organisations is, generally speaking, this gut instinct that we have is the right one. There's not many times in my life I've gone wrong with the gut, so it is about just backing it and that conviction. But I am chief procrastinator by my own admission, so I drive myself mad, agonising over that type of thing. But that network piece around you of those trusted individuals, whether they're in your organisation, outside of that, friends, whatever, for me that is massive. And you also touched upon a point earlier, Monica, around find people that are going to champion you. When you're having those moments when you're not quite sure, you've got somebody to back you. My goodness me, that makes such a difference to the way that you're feeling, the way that you present yourself, because you've got people saying, yes, you can. Yes, you can. And that's huge. So great question. I think we had a hand up at the back. Yeah, gentleman at the back there next to the lady in the blue jacket.
I love mental fitness, by the way, like that term. Quick question. So Aaron Noon from Barclays Private Bank. We specialise in looking after high net worth sports individuals, and we do see a mental health shift from when you're in the game and you're in the limelight playing in front of thousands of people to suddenly when you're approaching the end of your career. So you spoke very much about the importance of mental health mindset today in the present. What are your thoughts on preparing your mindset for future key life events like having kids or approaching retirement?
Yeah, that's a great question, and actually it's something that we are currently sort of concocting a little bit of a program around maintaining purpose. So when you're coming to the end of a career, if you think of an athlete, every single day their purpose has been, they get up in the morning, they get told where they need to be, and one day that is over. Tomorrow no one's going to say, why aren't I at training? Why didn't I go to the gym? Why didn't I do this? So you've got to create your own purpose. And I think it's massively important to prepare people in life skills. So, being a parent is a completely different set of skills and set of habits and behaviours that it is to performing on a football pitch. And it's a little bit like you were saying earlier on, you can sort of feel lonely, can't it? Because as a parent, for example, you haven't got 10 other people around you. If it goes wrong, we can say, oh, well, yeah, I thought I did all right, they were rubbish. You can't really say that because the other parents get mad. If you say, I'm doing a great job, pick your game up. It is really important that we do focus on that, because I actually do think that a lot of care for individuals, particularly in sport, is when they're on the way up. And it's normally till when they get to like 20% before the end. And then I think the care starts to tail off. And we have, at one point, I had to switch it off a little bit because it was becoming crazy. At one point, 30% of our clients were ex-athletes who just didn't know what to do now. No one's chasing me to go to the gym. What do you reckon I should do? Spend time with your kids. I've never done that. Yeah. I've never done that. I don't know how to spend time with my kids. Or spend time with your partner. She's into mad stuff, like we just live different lives. And it's like you have to sort of reintroduce themselves into their own family network.
Yeah, I think it's really interesting. I mean, one of the good things, I know Barclays, Visa in the second half, LHH and the Adecco group, doing some really great work, particularly in women's football space, around this career transition. But it is hard, isn't it, to get people to think about that in advance of leaving their dream, effectively. It's really challenging, but there is support available to people. And one of the biggest things that I've found, certainly in the role at Women in Football, is just getting to people. The systems and the structures don't necessarily make it easy for organisations to reach players, as an example, in order to go, there's this opportunity and it's free and it's going to literally help you so much. So yeah, I think it's
I actually think education needs to start at academy stage, because when we're talking about people leaving their career, that's a natural leaving their career. It's come to an end, but actually you might have somebody who doesn't make it, let down, saying, no, we don't need you anymore. It might be an injury that means that the career's ended. So it could be a very abrupt end to the career. So I think it's really important that, we educate and talk about these life skills and training around life skills from the academy age, from that stage of the career, rather than
And Alison made a great point, didn't she, in the panel earlier around build capability, you've got the transferable skills. Sometimes what you need is somebody to unlock that ability in your mind to think, actually, on the pitch I'm a leader, or in the boardroom I'm a this. I can take it into this industry, whether it's, from sport into a different industry or vice versa. We see it a lot with military personnel as well, former military personnel. So, really, really interesting. We've probably got time for one more question. Did I see another hand at some point? Here we go. Have we got the microphone just on the second row here, please? Thanks, Carla. Just on the end.
It's a really quick one. I was just going to ask Chris, how do you find your superpower? You spoke about it earlier. A lot of people didn't put their hand up. And actually our CEO was talking about it for International Women's Day. And I'm thinking, I don't know how to even find it. And I could ask, say, my sister, and she'll tell me all these great things. And I'm like, yeah, but that's because you're my sister, you say that. Yeah. How do you find your true superpower that you believe in?
Yeah, I think a lot of it is around, self-awareness. So it's understanding your strengths and understanding what you do really well. So if you go back to the thing about confidence, primarily a lot of the time, whether it's in employment or it's in work or whatever, every time we have a one-to-one, they talk about where you're deficient, don't they? They talk about what you need to work on. And 50 minutes of it is you're not very good at this. And then the last 5 minutes, they go, I think you were quite good at that. And then that 5 minutes was the proportion of the bit where you felt good. And I think to find your superpower, I think you've got to be able to understand, what am I really good at? And really focus on the things that you're really good at. And maybe at a point in time, I don't believe, for me personally, it's helped me at all to focus on the things that I'm not good at. Because I'm not organised, I'm not good at concentrating, I'm probably on the spectrum, almost certainly, and I can't even read a letter. I get it's not good for bills, but I get 3 words in and I crack on.
Not to interrupt you, but on that point, but you're aware of that.
Yeah.
So going to your point around self-awareness, that's massive. Yeah. And to your point around your sister, if you want to know what you're good at, ask your mates to just tell you. Honest to God, a friend of mine asked me to help her with a CV. She sent it across and I looked at it and it was good. But when I'd finished with it and I sent it back, this is not the same person. It absolutely is the same person. But I see all I will celebrate everything that you're brilliant at. And it might not be, it isn't necessarily a worky thing. So I think mine is joining dots. I'm just really good at meeting people in random places and joining dots, and suddenly it just becomes this amazing networking thing. But when I was younger, earlier in my career, I thought my superpower probably needed to be, how to communicate in a boardroom, or, write minutes of a meeting or whatever. And actually what I realised was I was trying to be what I thought people needed instead of just trying to be me.
Yeah. That's exactly what I was going to say. If you consistently do the things that you believe you're good at, and you're exhibiting them behaviours consistently, unapologetically, because you're self-aware and you think, I'm not good at that, so what? And then you ask for feedback. We should seek feedback, because feedback is the biggest gift you can get. Feedback is the biggest gift that you can get. I work with some people who are super, super successful, and even the likes of Richard Branson, and he says that the day he stopped learning was the day he stopped getting feedback, because he grows so to a status where nobody was able to sort of say, do you know what, Rich, drop the cola, it's not you, stick to the planes. No one was doing that. So you have got to seek feedback, because that is the gift. And sooner or later, you'll get it, where so many people are telling you the same thing all of the time. And you go to yourself, do you know what, that is my purpose, that's what I should do. Then sometimes you might not be in the right career to practice that. So maybe it changes a few things there, but.
A brilliant point to finish on. Thank you so much. We are bang on time. I am an excellent chair, just putting it out there.
No one said we're bang on time. She put the stop sign up 4 times.
Well, if you saw it, Chris, why didn't you stop?
Sorry.
Anyway, thank you so much for your attention. Monica, Chris, thank you.